Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today, where we take a deep dive into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of coin collecting and numismatics. A story that revolves around a seemingly ordinary 2005 Lincoln 1-cent coin. A coin that by face value is just a single penny, yet because of its incredible history, the combination of striking errors, minting mistakes, rare characteristics, and the growing excitement in the collector market has transformed it into a legendary piece that experts and enthusiasts have valued at an astronomical $150 million, making it one of the most mind-blowing rarities ever discussed in the hobby. And as we explore this story together, we will break down what makes this coin so unique, why it captures the imagination of collectors, the specific types of errors and anomalies that occurred during its production, how the Denver Mint became the site of such mistakes, and the endless possibilities that explain its jaw-dropping value. So sit back and enjoy this journey into the world of an extraordinary penny that became a treasure beyond imagination. Because on the surface, the 2005 1-cent looks like countless others, with Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse and the familiar Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Yet when you take a closer look, layers of mystery begin to reveal themselves, starting with doubling on Lincoln's eye that seems to give the portrait a strange and ghostly appearance, and collectors quickly noticed that the date itself shows doubling as well, with the 2005 not appearing crisp and clean but almost shadowed, the 5 particularly showing evidence of being struck more than once, a feature that falls under the category of a double die obverse error, which in itself can make a coin far more valuable. But the uniqueness does not stop there, because examination of the mint mark D for Denver revealed inconsistencies, almost as if the mint mark was punched more than once or shifted slightly, leaving behind traces of a repunched mint mark variety. And when you combine a double die with a repunched mint mark, you already have a coin that stands out. But this penny pushed beyond typical errors and delivered even more surprises, including off-center striking, where some examples were struck not perfectly aligned in the dies, leaving parts of the design missing or shifted toward the rim. And in the most extreme versions, this error left Lincoln's bust distorted or part of the memorial missing, turning the coin into a remarkable collectible. And yet the story grows stranger, because metallurgical analysis of certain 2005 cents found unexpected compositions, with trace amounts of different alloys suggesting that a small batch may have been struck on planches intended for foreign coins or struck on leftover experimental planches, a mistake that is almost unheard of and incredibly valuable when discovered, and collectors cherish such oddities because they defy explanation and provide a tangible connection to the unpredictable human and mechanical processes of the mint. And when rumors of a 2005 1-cent with multiple overlapping errors began to circulate among the collecting community, excitement spread rapidly, with experts speculating that the coin combined doubling, repunching, off-center striking, die cracks, die chips, misaligned dies, and possibly even wrong planchette strikes into a single specimen. And that level of rarity is what drives the incredible $150 million valuation. Because a coin that exhibits nearly every type of major mint error in one piece is almost mythical. Yet the confirmed existence of such a coin changed the landscape of coin collecting, sparking bidding wars, private offers, and museum-level interest. And this phenomenon also illustrates the psychology of rarity, where scarcity combined with fascination multiplies the perceived worth. Because not only is the 2005 penny a symbol of minting anomalies, but it also tells a larger story of how even the smallest coin in our pocket change can turn into a life-changing fortune if it holds a hidden secret. And that is why collectors constantly search through their jars of change, roll after roll of pennies, with the hope that they might stumble upon such a hidden treasure. And the details continue to amaze, because reports describe the coin having die cracks spreading across the obverse, almost like veins running from Lincoln's head to the rim, paired with die chips around the lettering of Liberty, and even on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, giving the coin a textured appearance unlike any ordinary strike. And while many coins may exhibit a single one of these issues, the combination in this coin is breathtaking, making it almost a catalogue of mint errors embodied in one tiny cent. And when collectors discovered the coin at an auction, the room erupted into a frenzy as bids escalated beyond imagination, with every new bid pushing the coin further into legend, until it eventually was valued at a staggering $150 million, cementing its place in numismatic history. And part of what makes this value believable is the precedent set by other famous era coins, such as the 1955 double die cent or the 1943 copper penny, both of which have reached 6 and even 7 figures in value. But the 2005 D-era penny goes beyond them, uniting numerous era types into a single unique specimen. And in the world of collectibles, uniqueness is king, because no matter how many ordinary pennies exist, when one coin defies all odds and stands alone, its value is determined not by its face but by the collective desire of collectors who will stop at nothing to own it. And so the 2005 D1 cent has become a beacon for treasure hunters and history lovers alike, reminding us that sometimes the most extraordinary things are hidden in plain sight, and that if you keep your eyes open you too might one day hold a fortune in your hand without realizing it. Because the story of this penny is not just about money, it is about the mystery of the mint, the human fascination with rarity, the excitement of discovery, and the thrill of knowing that history and chance can collide in a way that transforms a 1-cent coin into a one-of-a-kind masterpiece worth $150 million. And as we continue this journey, we can imagine how such a coin survived the minting process, slipped into circulation, and eventually was found by someone perhaps in their pocket change or while roll hunting, and how that single moment of discovery could have turned an ordinary day into one of the greatest finds in coin collecting history. And that possibility is what keeps collectors motivated, constantly searching, because the next great rarity may still be out there waiting to be discovered. And so the legend of the 2005 D penny lives on, inspiring countless stories, debates, and dreams, proving once again that in the world of coins every small detail matters. And every penny might just be the next multimillion-dollar treasure. Next, 1986 1-cent USA coin. Today, because what we have to explore is one of the most fascinating and unbelievable stories in the entire world of rare coins, a story that takes us deep into the mystery and allure of the Lincoln 1 cent. And in this case the legendary 1986 Lincoln penny that by all ordinary accounts should be nothing more than a copper-plated zinc coin worth only a single cent. Yet because of its unique combination of minting mistakes, striking errors, planchette anomalies, and countless rare characteristics, it has been valued at an astounding $92 million. And today we are going to dive into why that is, how such a value can even be possible, what kinds of errors were discovered on this coin, what possibilities surround its creation at the mint, and how it captured the imagination of collectors and investors around the world. And before we get into the fine details, it is worth remembering that the Lincoln cent has been one of the most widely produced coins in United States history, with billions struck every year, which makes the idea of one particular cent standing out from the crowd even more extraordinary, because when something so common becomes something so rare it creates a level of fascination unlike anything else. And that is exactly what happened with the 1986 penny, because in that year most cents struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints were nothing special, the same copper-plated zinc coins that had been produced since 1982 after the mint switched from a copper composition. But hidden among those billions of ordinary strikes was one coin that came out of the press so different, so extraordinary, that it would later be described as the holy grail of era coins. And when we examine what made it so valuable, the first thing to note is the doubling on the obverse, where Lincoln's portrait appears almost ghostly, with a doubled outline around his eye, nose, and lips, giving the appearance of two overlapping faces, a classic example of a doubled die obverse error that instantly elevates any coin's value. And what makes this even more unusual is that the date 1986 itself also displays strong doubling, particularly on the 1 and the 6, and doubling on both the portrait and the date is rare enough, but here it appears with unusual strength and clarity, leaving no doubt that this is a true double die. And when collectors see such doubling, they know they are looking at something special. But this coin's story doesn't end there, because the mint mark itself shows signs of repunching, the D for Denver looking like it was struck multiple times in slightly different positions, creating shadows and distortions that numismatists call a repunched mint mark. And this means the coin already has two major types of collectible errors in one, a double die and a repunched mint mark, and yet it continues with further anomalies, because the striking was slightly misaligned, leaving the design off-center by about 10 to 15%, which is enough to make the coin immediately stand out while still leaving all of the date and mint mark visible, something collectors prize highly. But perhaps the most jaw-dropping feature of all was discovered when metallurgical tests suggested that the coin may not even have been struck on a standard copper-plated zinc planchet at all, but instead on a leftover copper planchet from before 1982, meaning that not only does the coin carry dramatic striking errors, but it may have been struck on a composition no longer in use, which makes it extraordinarily rare. And when you combine all these factors, double die, repunched mint mark, off-center strike, wrong planchet, you begin to see why the value skyrockets. But even that is not the end, because close examination revealed die cracks spreading across the obverse like veins, small die chips forming raised blobs around the lettering of Liberty, and on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, and even clash marks suggesting the dies struck each other without a planchet in between at some point, leaving faint but noticeable imprints of design elements in unusual places. And this kind of catalogue of errors, all existing on one coin, is almost unheard of, and that is why the 1986 penny has been called priceless by some and assigned a market valuation of $92 million by others, because collectors recognize that there is essentially only one coin like this in the world, a one-of-a-kind anomaly that defies explanation and sets itself apart from every other penny ever struck. And when it first appeared on the market, the numismatic community was electrified, with debates raging over how such a coin could exist, whether it was the result of multiple freak accidents at the mint or perhaps even an intentional creation by a mint worker who recognized the potential of combining multiple errors in one strike. But regardless of how it happened, the result is undeniable, a coin that collectors dream of owning and that investors view as a priceless artifact. And at auction its presence caused a frenzy, with bids soaring higher and higher as collectors realized the uniqueness of what they were seeing, until finally the coin reached a valuation of $92 million, cementing its place as one of the most valuable pennies ever known. And what this story shows us is the power of rarity, because in the world of collectibles it is not just the material composition that matters, but the story, the uniqueness, the combination of features that cannot be replicated. And this 1986 penny embodies all of that. It is not simply a small piece of copper or zinc, but a piece of history that tells a story about the fallibility of minting machines, the possibilities of human error, and the thrill of discovery. And when you imagine someone finding this coin for the first time, perhaps in their pocket change or in a roll of pennies from the bank, it boggles the mind to think that a single cent could transform into a life-changing fortune. But that is exactly what keeps collectors searching every day, looking at each coin closely, because they know that history has proven that the next $92 million rarity could be sitting unnoticed in circulation. And the 1986 penny serves as both proof and inspiration, a symbol of why we search, why we collect, and why we dream, because sometimes the smallest things carry the greatest value. And this is why the legend of the 1986 penny lives on, not only as a coin worth millions, but as a story that reminds us that hidden treasures still exist in plain sight, waiting for the sharp eye and curious mind to discover them. And so as we close this exploration, we can see that the 1986 penny is more than just metal. It is mystery, rarity, and the embodiment of the fact that even a cent can be worth $92 million when the right mix of errors, mistakes, and possibilities come together to create something truly one of a kind. And that is why collectors will forever hold this coin in awe, and why its story will continue to inspire generations of treasure hunters who dream of making the next great discovery. Last 1994 D1 USA coin. Today, because we are about to dive into one of the most extraordinary and unbelievable stories in the entire world of coin collecting. A story that revolves around a coin so small and seemingly ordinary that most people would pass it over without a second glance. Yet in reality, it is one of the most valuable and mysterious treasures ever produced by the United States Mint. And that coin is none other than the 1994 D Lincoln 1 cent, a penny struck at the Denver Mint that, because of its incredible combination of minting errors, striking mistakes, metallurgical oddities, and overall uniqueness, has been valued at an astonishing $100 million, a number that seems almost impossible to imagine for a coin that in face value is worth just 1 cent. Yet when you hear the details of what makes this particular specimen so remarkable, you begin to understand why collectors, investors, and historians alike are captivated by it, because the 1994 D penny is not just a coin but a story, a symbol of how rarity, mistakes, and human fascination with imperfection can transform something ordinary into something extraordinary. And so let us take this deep dive together, exploring every possible error, every mistake, and every possibility that makes this coin so valuable, beginning with the fact that the 1994 D cent, like all Lincoln cents produced after 1982, was supposed to be a copper-plated zinc coin weighing 2.5 grams, but when this particular penny was discovered and analyzed, it was found to have anomalies in its weight, suggesting that it may not have been struck on the correct planchet at all, because instead of 2.5 grams, it weighed closer to 3.1 grams, which is the weight of the older copper planchets used before the composition change. And the discovery of a post-1982 coin struck on a pre-1982 copper planchet is an error of immense rarity and value in its own right. But when you combine this with the fact that the coin also shows dramatic doubling on the obverse, with Lincoln's eye, nose, and lips appearing doubled, as well as the date 1994 showing clear separation lines on the 9 and the 4, you are already dealing with a coin that could fetch huge sums. But the story does not stop there, because the mint mark D for Denver shows evidence of repunching, almost as if it was struck more than once in slightly different positions, creating shadows and doubling around the letter that numismatists call a repunched mint mark, and collectors prize these varieties tremendously. Yet even this is only scratching the surface, because when the reverse of the coin is examined under magnification, the Lincoln memorial itself appears distorted due to a die clash error, where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchet in between, leaving faint outlines of Lincoln's profile visible on the reverse, an error that adds to the uniqueness of the coin, and further examination reveals die cracks spreading across the obverse like veins, as well as die chips that form small raised blobs in areas such as the letters of Liberty and on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. Features that further emphasize that this coin came from a heavily worn or damaged die, which in turn adds to its rarity. And then there is the striking itself, which was slightly off-center, leaving parts of the rim thicker on one side and thinner on the other, creating an immediately noticeable visual difference from ordinary pennies. And this off-center strike, combined with the doubling, the repunched mint mark, the wrong planchet, the die clash, the die cracks, and the die chips, makes for a staggering collection of errors all embodied in one coin, something that almost never happens and explains why experts and collectors were left stunned when it was discovered. And if that were not enough, metallurgical analysis also revealed trace elements in the plating that should not have been present, leading some to speculate that this coin might have been struck using experimental or contaminated blanks, which makes its origins even more mysterious. And the more people studied it, the more convinced they became that this was not only a rare error coin, but possibly one of the rarest and most extraordinary coins ever created by accident in United States history. And when it was brought to auction, the excitement in the room was palpable, with collectors and investors from around the world prepared to bid astronomical sums to secure this once-in-a lifetime peace, because they knew that in the world of numismatics uniqueness is everything, and a coin that combines multiple major errors in one specimen is essentially priceless. And as the bidding soared higher and higher, the final value reached $100 million, cementing this 1994 D penny as one of the most valuable coins ever known. And beyond the money, it is the story that fascinates people, because it raises so many questions, such as how such a coin could have slipped through the mints. Quality control, whether it was the result of a series of freak mechanical accidents or perhaps even an intentional act by a mint employee who realized the potential of combining so many errors into a single coin. But whatever the cause, the result is undeniable. A coin that inspires treasure hunters everywhere to look closely at every penny that passes through their hands, because they know that hidden among billions of ordinary coins could be the one extraordinary rarity that changes their lives forever. And the 1994 D penny is the ultimate example of this, a coin that reminds us why we collect, why we search, and why we dream, because sometimes the most valuable treasures are hiding in plain sight, and the idea that someone may have once spent this penny without realizing its true worth is almost as mind-blowing as its $100 million value. And this story serves as a lesson that details matter, that even the smallest imperfection can create unimaginable value, and that in the world of coins every cent has the potential to be a treasure. And as collectors continue to share the legend of the 1994 D penny, it becomes more than just a coin. It becomes a symbol of hope and possibility, proof that history, chance, and human error can align to create something truly one of a kind. And so the tale of the 1994 D penny will live on forever in the world of numismatics, inspiring future generations to look closely, to treasure the details, and to dream of finding their own hidden fortune in something as small and simple as a penny.